Let me ask you something that might keep you up tonight. What if I told you that the trust you spent good money setting up, the one sitting in that binder on your shelf right now, might not actually protect a single dollar of your estate? What if that trust, the one your attorney drafted and you signed with confidence, is the wrong type for what you're trying to accomplish? Here's the thing. There are two main kinds of trusts in the United States, and most people either pick the wrong one or don't understand the difference between them until it's too late. One gives you flexibility, the other gives you protection, but choosing the wrong one? That can cost your family thousands of dollars in taxes, leave your assets exposed to lawsuits, or even send your estate straight into probate, the exact thing you were trying to avoid. I've seen families torn apart, not because someone didn't plan, but because they planned with the wrong tool. And the saddest part is, a simple conversation with the right professional could have changed everything. So today we're going to break this down in plain English. We're going to talk about revocable trusts and irrevocable trusts, what each one does, what each one doesn't do, who each one is really designed for, and the costly mistakes people make when they mix them up. Now I want to be very clear right up front. Everything in this video is general education. I am not an attorney, I am not a financial advisor, and nothing I say here should be taken as legal or financial advice for your specific situation. Estate laws vary from state to state, and the right answer for your family depends on your unique circumstances. So please, use this video to get informed, get your questions ready, and then sit down with a licensed estate planning attorney in your state who can guide you based on the specifics of your life. By the end of this video, you're going to understand the fundamental difference between these two trusts. You'll know which situations call for one over the other, and you'll walk away knowing exactly what questions to ask your attorney. If that sounds helpful, take a second and hit subscribe. We put out new videos every week to help you protect what you've built for the people you love. So let's start with the basics. A trust, at its core, is a legal arrangement where you transfer ownership of your assets, your house, your bank accounts, your investments, into the care of a trustee. That trustee manages those assets according to the instructions you lay out in the trust document. You get to decide who benefits from those assets, when they receive them, and under what conditions. Think of a trust like a container. You take your stuff, you put it in the container, and you write a set of rules on the outside that says who gets what and when. Now, the type of container you choose changes everything about how those rules work and what kind of protection that container actually provides. A revocable trust, sometimes called a revocable living trust, is the most common type of trust that everyday families set up, and the name tells you a lot. Revocable means you can revoke it, you can change it, you can cancel it entirely, you stay in control. When you create a revocable trust, you are usually the grantor, the trustee, and the beneficiary all at once. You set it up, you manage it, and you benefit from it during your lifetime. You can add assets, remove assets, change the beneficiaries, rewrite the terms, whatever you want. It's your trust, and you call the shots as long as you're alive and mentally competent. That flexibility is exactly why revocable trusts are so popular. They feel comfortable, they feel safe, you're not giving anything up. And that's true, you're not. But here's the part that surprises a lot of people. Because you haven't given anything up, because you retain full control, the IRS and the courts still consider those assets yours. They are still part of your taxable estate. They are still reachable by creditors in many states. If someone sues you and wins a judgment, the assets inside your revocable trust may not be protected. If you need to qualify for Medicaid down the road, those assets inside a revocable trust are counted as yours. So a revocable trust is an incredible tool for avoiding probate, for keeping your affairs private, for planning for incapacity, and for making sure your assets pass smoothly to your beneficiaries. But it is not an asset protection tool. It is not a tax reduction tool. It is a convenience and planning tool. And that distinction costs families real money when they don't understand it. Let me give you an example to make this real. Imagine a couple, let's call them the Martins. They're both in their late 60s. They own a home worth about $600,000. They've got investment accounts, and they've got a couple $100,000 in retirement savings. They sit down with an attorney and set up a revocable living trust. They fund it properly, transferring their home and their investment accounts into the trust. They feel great. They've avoided probate. Their kids won't have to deal with the court system. Fast forward 5 years. Mr. Martin has a stroke and needs full-time nursing home care. The family applies for Medicaid to help cover the costs, which can easily run $8,000 to $12,000 a month. But here's the problem. Every asset in that revocable trust? Medicaid counts it as Mr. Martin's property because he retained control over it. The trust does nothing to protect those assets from the Medicaid spend-down requirement. If the Martins had understood the difference between revocable and irrevocable trusts 5 or even 3 years earlier, they could have explored an irrevocable trust strategy that might have shielded some of those assets. Instead, the family watched hundreds of thousands of dollars go toward nursing home costs that better planning could have addressed. That's the kind of difference we're talking about. Not a small technicality, a life-changing financial outcome. Now let's talk about the other side of the coin, the irrevocable trust. And I'll be honest, this is the one that makes most people uncomfortable, because the name alone sounds permanent and scary. And it is permanent. When you create an irrevocable trust, you are giving up control. You are transferring assets out of your name and into the trust, and once they're in there, you generally cannot take them back. You can't change the terms on a whim. You can't wake up Tuesday morning and decide to pull your beach house out of the trust and sell it. The trustee, who is usually someone other than you, manages those assets according to the instructions you set when the trust was created. Now, why on earth would anybody voluntarily give up control of their own assets? Because giving up control is exactly what creates the protection. Once those assets are inside an irrevocable trust, they're no longer yours in the eyes of the law. They belong to the trust, and that means they are generally not part of your taxable estate. They are generally not reachable by your personal creditors. They are generally not counted when you apply for Medicaid, provided enough time has passed. Most states have a 5-year look-back period, so timing matters enormously. An irrevocable trust is a more powerful tool, but it comes with a trade-off. You gain protection, but you lose flexibility, and that trade-off is not right for everyone. It depends on the size of your estate, your age, your health, your goals, and what risks you're trying to guard against. There are many different types of irrevocable trusts, and each one is designed for a specific purpose. An irrevocable life insurance trust, or ILIT, is used to hold a life insurance policy outside of your estate, so the death benefit doesn't count toward estate taxes. A charitable remainder trust lets you donate assets to charity while still receiving income during your lifetime, which can come with significant tax benefits. A Medicaid asset protection trust is specifically structured to move assets out of your countable estate so you can qualify for long-term care assistance. A generation-skipping trust is designed to pass wealth to your grandchildren or even further down the line without getting hit with estate taxes at each generation. Each of these is a specialized tool, and choosing the right one requires working closely with an attorney who understands both your goals and your state's specific laws. This is not something you should try to figure out from a template you found online. The legal details matter, and getting them wrong can be expensive. So how do you decide which trust is right for your situation? It really comes down to what you're trying to accomplish. If your primary goal is to avoid probate, keep your estate plan private, and make sure your assets transfer smoothly to your loved ones without court involvement, a revocable trust is probably the right starting point. It's flexible, it's straightforward, and it does exactly what most families need during their lifetime and at the point of passing. But if your goals go beyond that, if you're worried about estate taxes because your estate is large enough to trigger them, if you're concerned about lawsuits or creditors, if you're thinking ahead to potential long-term care costs, or if you want to make sure certain assets are permanently locked in for your children or grandchildren, then an irrevocable trust may be worth the conversation. And here's something important. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Many well-crafted estate plans use both. You might have a revocable living trust as the foundation of your plan, handling your day-to-day assets and serving as the main vehicle for avoiding probate. And alongside it, you might have an irrevocable trust that holds your life insurance policy, or shelters a portion of your assets for Medicaid planning, or sets up a legacy for future generations. The two types of trusts aren't competitors, they're teammates on the same estate plan. Now let me walk you through some of the most common mistakes and myths I see around this topic, because these misunderstandings cost families real money. Mistake number 1 is believing that a revocable trust protects your assets from creditors or lawsuits. It doesn't. As long as you control the assets, they're reachable. People set up revocable trusts thinking they've created a fortress, and then they're blindsided when a creditor comes knocking. Mistake number 2 is waiting too long to set up an irrevocable trust. Remember that Medicaid look-back period I mentioned? In most states, it's 5 years. That means if you transfer assets into an irrevocable trust and then apply for Medicaid within 5 years, those transfers can be penalized. Timing is everything, and procrastinating on this decision can close doors that would have been open if you'd started planning earlier. Mistake number 3 is thinking an irrevocable trust means you lose all benefit from those assets forever. Depending on how the trust is structured, you or your family members can still benefit from the assets inside it. For example, a Medicaid asset protection trust might allow your spouse to continue living in the home that's been transferred into the trust. An irrevocable trust holding investments might distribute income to beneficiaries on a regular basis. The key is how the trust is drafted, and that's where a skilled attorney earns their fee. Myth number 1 is that only wealthy people need irrevocable trusts. That's simply not true. A family with a $400,000 home and modest savings can absolutely benefit from Medicaid planning with an irrevocable trust. Long-term care costs can devour a middle-class estate in a matter of years. You don't need to be rich to need this kind of protection. You just need to have something worth protecting. So what should you actually do with all of this information? First, take an honest inventory of what you own. List your home, your bank accounts, your retirement accounts, your life insurance policies, any investment or brokerage accounts, and any other significant assets. Knowing what you have is the first step in knowing how to protect it. Second, think about what you're really trying to accomplish. Are you mainly trying to avoid probate and simplify things for your kids? Or are you also trying to protect assets from potential creditors, reduce estate taxes, or plan for possible long-term care? Your goals determine which tools belong in your plan. Third, look at your timeline. If Medicaid planning is even on your radar, understand that the 5-year look-back period means earlier action gives you more options. If you wait until a health crisis hits, many strategies are already off the table. Fourth, and I can't say this strongly enough, sit down with a licensed estate planning attorney in your state. Not a general practice lawyer who does a little bit of everything, but someone who focuses specifically on estate planning and elder law. Tell them your goals, show them your asset inventory, and let them recommend the right combination of tools. The consultation fee is one of the best investments you will ever make for your family. Here's what I want you to take away from today. The difference between a revocable trust and an irrevocable trust isn't just legal jargon. It's the difference between a plan that looks good on paper and a plan that actually protects your family when life gets hard. A revocable trust gives you control and convenience. An irrevocable trust gives you protection and tax advantages. And the right estate plan, the one that truly serves your family, might use both. Your family is counting on you to get this right, not because they'll ever say that out loud, but because you're the one thinking ahead. You're the one watching this video, doing the research, trying to make smart decisions. That matters more than you know. And the good news is, you don't have to figure this out alone. If this video helped you understand something you didn't before, please hit the like button. It helps more families find this information. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss next week's video, and drop a comment below if you have questions. I read every single one. And one more time, because it's important. Everything in this video is general education, not legal advice. Estate laws vary from state to state, so before you make any decisions, talk to a licensed estate planning attorney in your state. They can look at your specific situation and build a plan that truly fits. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.